little wet fly for you today. This is the Lord Baltimore, and it may look kind of familiar. A number of months ago, actually I think it might have been almost even a year ago, I did a fly called the Black and Orange, and it is also another fly that is in Ray Bergman's book, Trout. So is the Lord Baltimore. But the Black and Orange has black hackle barbs for the tail, and it doesn't have a jungle cock eye on it. Other than that, there's no difference. Those two differences, they're both the same fly. Schlappen for the throat, a black floss rib on an orange floss body, and black, in this case, goose for the wing. I'm interested in these flies because, for different reasons, but for this one in particular because I'm very curious, not that anybody knows this, I don't think, but I'd be curious to learn like which of these comes first. Because just like in today's patterns, when somebody comes up with a new fly, somebody takes that and modifies it for themselves, changing colors, material, length, whatever, either gives it another name or calls it a variant. But I just find it interesting. This is so much alike the black and orange, except for the jungle cock eyes even, that I'm just kind of curious which came first, and if one is kind of based off of the other, or they were developed two different countries, two different places. That I don't know. Something to look up one day. But anyway, that's the Lord Baltimore wet fly. And I'll get started time. Begin the Lord Baltimore by placing my hook on the vise. This is a Mustad 3399 in size 4. Go ahead and debarb the hook. I'll attach my thread. The Lord Baltimore has a orange floss body. So I'm going to start with a Danville 6/0 in white for my thread because I don't want to darken up that orange floss when it's in the water. Go wax on my thread. Start my thread about an eye length behind the eye of the hook. I'll run it down to just past the point so I can tie in the tail. There is no tip or tag on the Lord Baltimore, but it does have a tail. The tail is just black goose quill, the same goose quill that I'm going to use for the wing. If this was a smaller size, say 8 or 10, I would probably use a duck instead of the goose, but because of the larger size hook, I'm going to go with the goose. So I'm going to get 2 slips that are about 4 to 5 barbs each for my tail. Match those up, tie those in, keep moving my thread down the hook shank a little bit to just the end of the hook shank or the beginning of the bend. And there's my tail. Trim the rest of that the length of the body. As I mentioned, the body on this is an orange floss. I'm going to use a Danville 4-strand Rayon in orange, and the rib is also floss. It's a black, so it's a Danville 4-strand Rayon in black. I'll tie in the rib first. I'm using, for this size hook, I'm going to use all 4 strands of the Rayon. If you're tying it smaller, you might use just 3 or even 2 for a very small, like a size 12. Bring that up under the thread and bring it to the underside of the hook shank, pulling that back to the length of the body. Or you could just trim that the length of the body if you want. One wrap in to secure the rib. using all 4 strands of the orange also. I'll tie that in, bringing it over to my side. Again, pulling that back to my left so that it's the length of the body. Any of these that are a little bit long, you just trim those back so that they're just the length of the body. A little wax on my thread. And now I'll advance my thread forward in touching turns to have a nice smooth underbody. And then I can apply the orange floss body and the black rib. The rib you do want to twist. If you would rather have it flat, then I might just use 2 strands of the Rayon floss if I wanted it to be flat. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of wide with all 4 strands. But in this case, I'm going to twist it up real tight so that it's corded very nice. And when the rib goes in, it just gives me a nice distinct segmentation. Applied, I'm ready to change out my thread to the black thread that I'm going to finish the fly with. Might have noticed as I was putting that rib in that each time I came around on this side with the rib material, I would twist it, and I was simply just wetting my fingers. You could use some dubbing wax if you want, but I was twisting it like this clockwise so that each time around it came around, it was nice and tight, and I have that nice narrow corded look to it. To finish the fly, I'm using a Danville 6/0 in black. I'll wax my thread. Now I'll tie in the throat. The throat on the Lord Baltimore is just slopping. It's black hackle. You know, you could use probably some rooster or even hen saddle if you had it, but I'm just going to use some black schlappen. I'm going to take away the fluff from the feather. Then I'm going to peel off a little bit from both sides and match that up. And when I do, I end up with just a couple of slips of this schlappen hackle that are just perfect, set right in here. The length I like to get back to about the barb of the hook, and tie those right in on the underside. Careful with your thread wraps here because we're tying in the throat as well as the wing and some jungle cock eyes. So it's easy to all of a sudden end up with too large of a head on this fly. So the wing is just the Goose Quill, as I mentioned. I'll take two slips out, a left and a right, match those up. Make certain that my tips are matched up first. Get my tips all matched up. And then I'll double check the width. And these are just about right. I think I may have one extra on your side, which would be my side because they're upside down. So now I think I have them width-wise matched up. If you had to, I would make certain that I had my width correct on both of them, or excuse me, my tips lined up correctly on both of them, and not worry so much about the width as long as they're not too terribly off. You do want to make certain that you have, and these are a little bit further off. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell with the black. I'm going to take out a couple more. As I was saying, I would, if I had just one or two, I really wouldn't worry about it, the width. To me, it's more concerning to have the tips match up. You're going to notice those much more than you are the width. The tip of the wing is going to go about halfway down the tail. Bring my thread up for a pinch and loop. Add in a few wraps to secure it. And let's see how our wing is. I got one. That one got down a little bit lower. So go back in, unwrap it, line everything up. Just take your time with it. You usually unwrap and retie that in 2 to 3 times. May have to get another slip. Make certain you're getting it in right the way you want it. First time around, if it's not going in the way you want it, then get yourself another slip, try it again. That one looks pretty good. So now before I trim this away, because I have these jungle cock eyes, it's tempting to trim that off and then one barb here, and kind of fussy. It's tempting to trim this off, smooth out that head and everything, then put the eyes on. The problem is that the width of the head is going to be too much, and these jungle cock eyes can twist on you or not stay flat along the wing. I've already prepped these. I'm going to tie these in so that I'm binding them in just at the bottom of this white area right here. See, that'll stay nice and on that side. I'll tie the other one in the same. Take your time with this. And see, now I have both of these in pretty well right on the sides, and they're not twisting or moving out on me. That one did just a little bit. If I can't wrap it a little different. All right. So now I can reach in my scissors. Trim away the excess wing. And the remainder of the jungle cock. Come down to the eye of the hook and start wrapping that in, working my way back. As I said, this is a fly that you can easily get too much for too many thread wraps on, and the head kind of gets away from you. I'm trying to think. Can't tell if that's thread that's up there, or reflection, or possibly a little bit of clipped wing. Okay, I think we got it. So smooth that off. Double check we got everything wrapped down. We do. So I can flatten my thread out. Nine or 10 turn whip finish. The head cement on both sides here. This is going to soak down in there and hold that together really well. And I'll come back in a moment, put a couple coats of black lacquer on that, and our Lord Baltimore is done. Got one of these turkey quills just doesn't flare up like the other one. This one's nice and curved up and out, but for some reason, and it has to do with the actual feather, it's just a little bit flatter. So as I mentioned, the Lord Baltimore is very similar to the orange and black, except for the tail materials and the jungle cock eyes. I think it's going to be a good fly for darker waters, so I'm planning on fishing this in some muddy or spring waters, just because dark is going to fish much better in cloudy and muddy waters. But it's a fun fly to tie if you're looking for something to do with the jungle cock and you've got want some experience. It's a simple fly to do, and you can make up a bunch of these. Don't put the jungle cock in, and you've got a bunch of orange and black wet flies, or it's black and orange wet flies. So anyway, that is the Lord Baltimore. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help dressed irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.